Hi guys, it's Marc Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Marc Zicree of Star Trek, Space Command, Twilight Zone Companion, Smurfs, He-Man, on and on and on and on and on. So, I'm back from London, got a little bit of the flu on the mend, catching up on live televisions, been rewatching Game of Thrones Season 7, which is terrific, gonna finally catch up on The Expanse a little bit, all sorts of stuff. We'll be doing our commentary about The Expanse soon, but today I'm talking about the Star Trek Discovery Season Finale, Episode 15, Will You Take My Hand? And, well, and, let's see, where can we start? So now we can look at the season in its entirety. And it kind of started off kind of goofy, went into the mirror universe, that was kind of cool. We got to see Michelle Yeoh as the evil emperor, etc., 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 etc. Captain Lorca turned out to be the mirror image Captain Lorca. Cool, lots of cool stuff. But now we come back, and we're 9 months ahead of when we left, I believe it was, and the Klingons are winning the war, and what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So the Admiral makes the curious choice of taking the Emperor, the evil Michelle Yeoh, and pretending she's the captain, who died, actually, and was eaten by Klingons. This is a weird thing about eating sentient species in this show. For instance, the Emperor eats one of Saru's species, so, okay. That said, and they put her in charge, and she's going to go to the Klingon homeworld and blow it up, unbeknownst to our characters who think they're just mapping it. Okay, so so is it terrible? Is it good? It's kind of goofy in many ways. Well produced, looks great, many good actors. And Doug Jones gets to be the captain, though so sadly he's only the acting captain. I'd rather he be the captain. He's Saru's the level-headed character now. But okay, so what happens? So where to start? Well, first of all, I have a very hard time believing on the Klingon homeworld you would have an encampment of Orions and humans, renegade humans, and they're just kind of wandering around. The Klingons aren't really monitoring them. I mean, the Klingons are at war with the humans, so they're going to just let humans beam down to their homeworld and wander around? Very dubious. I mean, the Klingons are so tough. You just don't get a sense of that place being something that would actually be on the Klingon homeworld. I didn't buy it. It seemed more convenient because we wanted our guys to go on an away mission in disguise. And then you've got the character of Vok, who's now a human, but he has this human overlay or whatever the hell that is. So, so the ultimate upshot is Michelle Yeoh's going to blow up the Klingon homeworld. Michael rebels and goes to the Admiral and says, "We're not Starfleet. Starfleet wouldn't do this. Starfleet, it isn't the ends justify the means." So instead, she gives the bomb to the Klingon female, says to her, "You can use the threat of blowing up your homeworld to get power with all the clans and unite them, and you won't have to be warned against the humans." It's rather curious logic. I mean, okay, look. For me, war, the reality of war, seems very much more well thought out and realistic in Game of Thrones, which I've just been watching, season 7 of Game of Thrones. I can believe these characters acting out of these rational reasons for self-interest, blah blah blah. And the characters and personalities very balanced. I see the logic of it. In Star Trek Discovery, she just gives the speech. Well, we're not, we're Starfleet. We're better than that. And then all of a sudden, you give the bomb to your enemy, and somehow that's going to work, particularly an enemy who's never shown any particular kindness or empathy for humans. And, and also, why would the Klingon clans, we're going to blow up your world, so give me power. All right, we'll give you the power. We'll then find a way to disarm the bomb, and we'll kill you. I mean, just the logic of it seems very, very wacky to me. It's very specious. And also this whole character of Vok, where he's saying to Michael, well, he really loves her, but it never seemed like it was Vok being torn. It seemed like the human overlay had this personality, and Vok was always homicidal toward her. And so again, there's a dissonance there, where it's like, because the problem I also have is sort of like the enemy is evil, and it's like, because he says, well, they wouldn't have empathy for you, they wouldn't have compassion for you. Again, I always look in science fiction for how the story has a real world message and a real world metaphor, and the question really is, well, what is this saying? Because in the real world, there is an issue of we're Americans. Should we be torturing? Should we be doing some of the things we're doing? It's a question well worth asking, and I think that's what Star Trek is kind of getting at. But it's doing it in a very, as I said in the previous commentary, a very head writing way where there isn't an emotional line that really feels real or plausible. So, but meantime, stuff happens. Our guys win, more or less. The war is over. Michelle Yeoh, we let her go off, the evil emperor, and she's going to go off and have her adventures and probably come back. And then, of course, we end the season with the big cool thing, which is the Enterprise sends a distress signal. It's Captain Pike's Enterprise. That's the arrow into the next season. And the question is, will it be the Captain Pike? And, of course, Spock is on that ship. So we'll finally see Spock, who's ostensibly the adoptive brother of Michael's character. And, because it always has been weird that here's Sarah, here's Amanda, here's Michael, they raised her. Well, where's Spock? What's the deal with Spock? So will it be the actors who play Captain Pike and Mr. Spock in JJ's movies? It'll be interesting and strange because they'll then be in a different timeline than JJ's movies, so it starts to splinter a bit. But and also, will it be uniforms that are in more in keeping with the original pilot of Star Trek? Because for those of you who are Trekkies, and probably everyone watching this is, the original pilot of Star Trek starred Jeffrey Hunter and Leonard Nimoy and Majel Barrett on the Enterprise, and it was Captain Pike and Mr. Spock and Number One, played by Majel Barrett, who was the first officer. Cool, very cool pilot. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. The Cage. It was called The Cage and was repurposed as a two-hour episode, two-part episode called The Menagerie. But you can watch The Cage in its original form on the Star Trek DVDs and Blu-rays and so forth. Really wonderful episode. But that established Captain Pike, and then he was reprised in The Menagerie as someone in a wheelchair or a body chair thing. He could only go boop for yes and boop boop for no, or vice versa. So and then he was revised and resurrected in JJ's movies. So that all said, it'll be an interesting season premiere. I'm sure it'll get a lot of people to tune in. So, but in summation, looking over this entire season, was it? I guess the bottom line question is, was it worth watching? I guess I'd say yes. I found many things to like in Star Trek Discovery. Overall, I think it was kind of hinky, kind of odd. I liked the Mirror Universe, though certainly not a patch on the original Mirror Universe story, Mirror Mirror. Soon I'll be doing a Mr. Sci-Fi video on Star Trek Continues and Star Trek New Voyages Phase 2/Phase 2, which are two fan film efforts that continue the 5-year mission of the Enterprise. And Star Trek Continues did a sequel to Mirror Mirror that was actually very, very good. And we'll talk about all of this. So for now, that's it for now. I'll also be updating you soon about my travels in Europe and pitching Space Command and my new pilot, Night Meeting, and what's going on with all of that. And the new book I'm writing, Greenlighting Yourself. But that's for later, and we're continuing to sell shares in Space Command, and feel free to reach out to me, marczicree@gmail.com, if you're interested in that. Lots of stuff coming down the pike. But for now, and also, by the way, some people have been asking me to give a little bit of a tour of my bookcase, my bookshelves. And for those who wonder, just to let you know, this photo of the guy behind me, if you've been wondering in these Mr. Sci-Fi videos who that is, that's Philip K. Dick, when he wrote Man in the High Castle. So he wasn't always a pudgy, bearded guy. He was once a young, very intense-looking man, and I love this photo of him. It was actually taken by Arthur Knight, who was the film critic of Playboy, and I think it's a lovely photograph. So that's it for now. We'll talk soon. Mr. Sci-Fi, Marc Zicree of Space Command, and thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.